When you get married, you expect a lot of things to come your way: love, companionship, maybe a couple of kids. But what you don't expect is for your wife to ask you to step into a role that was never yours to begin with. Yet that's exactly where I found myself a few months ago, and it's been a whirlwind ever since. Let me give you some background first. My wife, Sarah, and I have been married for 5 years, and for the most part, it's been smooth sailing. We're both career-focused, child-free by choice for the time being, and we enjoy our life together. Sarah has always been close to her best friend, Lisa. They've known each other since they were kids, so naturally, when Lisa became a mom 5 years ago, Sarah was there every step of the way. Lisa's daughter, Emma, is a bright, spirited little girl who has captured all of our hearts. But Emma's father, Mark, is a different story. Mark is what many would describe as an alpha male. He's the kind of guy who believes that emotions are for the weak, and that a man's role in the family is to be the provider, nothing more. His idea of fatherhood is pretty much limited to bringing home the paycheck and nothing else. This has left Lisa to do all the heavy lifting when it comes to raising Emma. Now, I've always liked Emma. She's an easy kid to love. But everything changed one evening when Sarah and I were having dinner. Out of the blue, she brought up a topic that completely blindsided me. Mark's not stepping up for Emma, and it's really taking a toll on Lisa, Sarah said, her voice tinged with concern. I was thinking, maybe you could step in and be that father figure for Emma that she's missing. I put my fork down, stunned. Wait, what? You want me to help raise Emma? She's not my child, Sarah. That's Mark's responsibility. I know, Sarah replied, looking at me earnestly, but Mark isn't doing it. He's too stuck in his ways, too alpha to think he needs to be involved in Emma's life. Lisa's struggling and Emma deserves better. You're great with kids and you already care about Emma. It just makes sense. I stared at her, trying to process what she was asking. This wasn't some small favor. She was asking me to step into a role that, quite frankly, I had no business being in. It wasn't just about spending more time with Emma or being a supportive friend to Lisa. It was about taking on the responsibilities of a father, a role that was Mark's, not mine. Sarah, I'm sorry, but I can't do that, I said, finally, trying to keep my voice steady. I'll be there for Emma as much as I can, but I can't take on the role of her father. That's Mark's job, whether he likes it or not. Sarah looked disappointed, and I could tell this wasn't the answer she wanted to hear. But I stood my ground. I knew what she was asking of me, and it wasn't something I could agree to lightly. The days that followed were tense. Sarah was clearly upset with me, and while she didn't bring it up again, the issue hung in the air like a dark cloud. I started questioning myself, wondering if I was being selfish or if I was somehow failing Sarah and Emma by refusing to step up. But deep down, I knew I was right. This wasn't my responsibility. It was Mark's. One evening, after another awkward dinner filled with strained silence, I decided we needed to talk. I couldn't let this continue to fester between us. Sarah, I need to explain where I'm coming from, I began as we sat on the couch. I love Emma, and I care about Lisa, but I'm not Emma's father. Mark is. And as much as I want to help, it's not fair to anyone, especially Emma, for me to take on a role that isn't mine. Sarah sighed, looking down at her hands. I just want what's best for Emma. She deserves a father who's there for her and Mark. He's just not that guy. I get that, I said softly. But maybe this is something Mark needs to figure out for himself. If I step in, it's only going to give him an excuse to keep shirking his responsibilities. Emma needs her real father to step up, not a substitute. Sarah nodded slowly, and I could see the understanding in her eyes. You're right, she said finally. I guess I just wanted a quick fix, but you're right, Mark needs to be the one to change. We hugged, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was relieved that we had reached an understanding, but I also knew that the situation was far from resolved. A few weeks later, things took an unexpected turn. Mark showed up at our house one evening, asking to talk to me. This was unusual in itself, as Mark and I had never been particularly close. But what was even more surprising was what he said when we sat down on the back porch. I've been a shitty father, Mark admitted, his voice rough with emotion. I've been so caught up in trying to be this alpha male that I've neglected the most important thing in my life, Emma, and I don't want to be that guy anymore. I want to do better, but I don't know how. I was stunned. This was not the Mark I knew, the man who prided himself on his stoicism and strength. This was a man who was finally confronting his shortcomings, and it was clear that he was struggling. I'm not an expert, I said carefully, but the fact that you're here, admitting this, it's a good start. What matters now is what you do next. Emma needs you to be there for her, not just in a physical sense, but emotionally too. Mark nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. Change isn't easy, especially when it involves confronting deep-seated beliefs about yourself and your role in the world. But I could also see a glimmer of determination in him, a desire to be better, for Emma's sake. Over the next few weeks, Mark started coming over more often. We would sit and talk about fatherhood, about the challenges he was facing and the steps he could take to build a stronger relationship with Emma. It was clear that this was new territory for him, and he often looked to me for guidance. I did my best to offer advice, though I often felt like I was fumbling in the dark myself. But little by little, I saw a change in Mark. He started spending more time with Emma, taking her to the park, helping her with her homework, and even tucking her into bed at night. It wasn't always smooth. There were setbacks, moments when his old habits resurfaced and he struggled to keep his temper in check. But the difference was that now he was trying. He was making an effort, and it was clear that Emma was starting to respond to that. But little by little, I saw a change in Mark. He started spending more time with Emma, taking her to the park, helping her with her homework, and even tucking her into bed at night. It wasn't always smooth. There were setbacks, moments when his old habits resurfaced and he struggled to keep his temper in check. But the difference was that now he was trying. He was making an effort, and it was clear that Emma was starting to respond to that. One evening, as we were all having dinner together, Emma ran up to Mark and hugged him tightly. "I love you, Daddy," she said, beaming up at him. Mark's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment he looked like he didn't know how to respond. But then he knelt down and hugged her back. "I love you too, sweetheart," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. Watching them, I felt a lump form in my throat. This was what it was all about: breaking the cycle, becoming better than what you were taught to be. But the road to change is never easy, and there were still moments of doubt. One day, Mark called me in a panic. He had lost his temper with Emma over something small, and now she was terrified of him. When I arrived at their house, I found Emma curled up in a corner, crying, while Lisa tried to comfort her. Mark was pacing the living room, looking like he wanted to tear his hair out. "I screwed up, man," he said as soon as he saw me. "I don't know what happened. One minute we were fine, and the next. She wouldn't stop asking questions, and I lost it." I put a hand on his shoulder. "Mark, you need to calm down. Getting angry isn't going to help. What matters now is how you handle this." He looked at me, and for the first time I saw real fear in his eyes. What if I'm just like my dad? What if I can't change? "You're not your dad," I said firmly. "But you need to understand that raising a child isn't just about being there physically. It's about being there emotionally too. Emma looks up to you. She needs to feel safe with you." Mark nodded, but I could see the self-doubt gnawing at him. I knew this was a pivotal moment, a test of his commitment to being a better father. I knelt down beside Emma, who was still crying softly. "Hey kiddo," I said gently. "It's okay. Your dad didn't mean to scare you." She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. "Why is Daddy mad at me?" "He's not mad at you," I reassured her. "Sometimes grown-ups get upset, but it's never your fault. Your dad loves you very much, and he's sorry for getting angry." Mark slowly walked over to us and knelt down beside Emma. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," he said, his voice cracking. "I didn't mean to yell at you. I love you more than anything in the world, and I'm going to do better. I promise." Emma hesitated for a moment, then threw her arms around him. "I love you too, Daddy," she whispered. As I watched them embrace, I realized that Mark was truly committed to changing, and that change, no matter how difficult, was possible. The weeks turned into months, and I continued to see growth in Mark. He was becoming the father Emma needed, and it was clear that she was thriving because of it. The bond between them was stronger than ever, and even though there were still challenges, Mark was facing them head-on. Sarah and Lisa were thrilled with the progress Mark was making, and I could tell that Sarah was proud of the role I had played in helping him. But the truth was, I hadn't done much. Mark had done the hard work. He had faced his fears and insecurities and had chosen to be better for his daughter. Sarah and Lisa were thrilled with the progress Mark was making, and I could tell that Sarah was proud of the role I had played in helping him. But the truth was, I hadn't done much. Mark had done the hard work. He had faced his fears and insecurities and had chosen to be better for his daughter. One evening, as we were all gathered for a barbecue at our place, Mark pulled me aside. "I owe you a lot, man," he said, his voice full of gratitude. "I don't know where I'd be right now if you hadn't helped me." "You don't owe me anything," I replied. "You did this. You made the choice to change." He shook his head. "No, you were the one who made me see that I needed to. I'm just glad I listened." As I watched Mark and Emma together that night, laughing and playing, I realized something important. Being a father isn't about being perfect. It's about being there, about trying your best even when it's hard, and about showing your child that they are loved no matter what. Mark had a long way to go, but he was on the right path. And Emma, she had her father back, the one she always deserved. Looking back on everything that happened, I don't regret standing my ground that day when Sarah first asked me to step up. If I had taken on the role of Emma's father, Mark might never have realized how much he was missing out on. Sometimes the best way to help someone is to let them take responsibility for their own actions. In the end, this experience taught me that change is possible, even for someone as stubborn as Mark. It's never too late to become the person you want to be, and it's never too late to be the parent your child needs. So, am I the asshole? I don't think so. I think I did what was right, not just for myself, but for everyone involved. And in the process, I learned a lot about what it means to truly step up.